Hi and welcome back to the channel. My name is Dr. Maddie. I'm a doctor from the UK. Today we're going to be looking at another movie fight scene breakdown, and this week is going to be Deadpool 2.
¿Dónde está la biblioteca?
So what we're going to be doing is looking at the prison fight scene, and I'll be breaking down the injuries that Deadpool sustains from a doctor's perspective. Now, of course, Deadpool is a fictional character and he has a healing factor, so I'll be talking about the types of injuries that would affect an unpowered normal human being as opposed to Deadpool. So, if you're ready, let's begin. Gosh, so in this first scene we see Cable push his fist through into Deadpool's chest, and it's not quite clear whether he's picking him up from the bottom of his rib cage or whether he's gone through between his ribs into the intercostal space. So for argument's sake, let's say he's picked him up from under the rib cage there. What I would be concerned about is damage to the diaphragmatic muscle, which basically lines the bottom of the rib cage. Now, this muscle is an essential muscle used in breathing. So what Deadpool can expect is a lot of pain with every breath. Now, I don't think he necessarily needs any other investigations here, unless there were other features that made me concerned. But what he's definitely going to need is very strong pain relief, because I can imagine this is going to take weeks, if not maybe a few months, before it's not going to be painful any longer to take a breath. Oh gosh, okay. So this is what I was getting at earlier. Some of these injuries are a bit over the top, and fortunately Deadpool has his healing factor, but as you can see there, he's kind of left the lower part of his body behind on the table, and it's a bit unrealistic. You know, you would expect him to at least cause the table to buckle from the impact of the fall, or his body to kind of bounce off the table and go onto the floor, but clearly you can see that he's fractured his spine there, and that would have definitely severed the spinal cord. So anything below where that fracture is, you'd be expecting paralysis. Now, you know, for educational purposes, you could put him through an MRI scanner, but you don't need to be a spinal or a brain surgeon to know that, that he's damaged his spinal cord.
¿Dónde está la biblioteca?
I like those first revival words. I don't actually know what they mean, but it's very random and just like Deadpool to say. Now, the uppercut we see here that Deadpool gives Cable with this steel bar could cause a concussion, which is a minor injury to the brain that can lead to confusion and some disorientation and possible memory loss. But then I'd also be concerned as to whether he's caused any damage to the facial bones, particularly the mandible, which is the bone that makes up the jaw. So we'd need to x-ray that and possibly ask one of the maxillofacial doctors or one of the dental doctors to have a look, just to see whether the jaw is stable or whether he needs an operation to fix it.
Who are you? I'm Batman.
I'm the Batman. That's such a great and iconic line, and well placed in this film. So what we're looking at here is Deadpool has strangled Cable with a steel bar, and I don't think he's done any damage to the hard structures in the neck like the bones, but he could certainly have caused some damage to the soft tissues, and what you've got there is the skin, muscles, and then you've got the underlying structures like the voice box or the windpipe and the food pipe just below. So for this type of patient, I would want to listen to them speak to see if the vocal cords are intact, and make sure there's not been like a laryngeal fracture, and then just have an examination of the neck and see what range of movement that he's got there, just to make sure that all the muscles are still attached and working. Oh gosh, yeah, and that arm is definitely broken. I mean, you heard the crunch, and this is actually something we hear a lot of patients say when they come through and they've broken, or they think that they've broken a bone. particularly with the ankle. You know, they'll say they've twisted it or gone over it and heard a crunch, and often you need to x-ray that just for reassurance for the patient that it's not broken. But anyway, here he looks like he's done a hyperextension injury, so I'd be expecting like a fragmented fracture, possibly to both bones. So you've got the humerus and you've got the ulna and radius in the forearm. So he's going to need an x-ray with immobilization and possibly need to go to theatre to have the bones pinned back in place to allow them to heal straight. Oh, and I love how creative they get with this fight scene. You know, he's twisted his arm or used it as a tool to fight against Cable in this next scene, and I mean, you know, he's just completely contorted his whole upper limb on that side. So that would need x-ray now from the shoulder all the way down to the wrist, and I would be expecting, you know, fractures all the way along the arm. It kind of reminds me of that science experiment where you put bone in Coca-Cola or vinegar for several hours and you take it away and the bone's almost flexible. Yeah, so it's very funny, but clearly he's broken that arm and he's going to need some surgical treatment for it. Oh gosh, and yeah, he's been stabbed in the lateral or the outside aspect of his thigh there, and of course you'd be worried about damage to the underlying structures like muscles and possibly the bone if it's deep. But then the real big concern is whether he's hit any of the major blood vessels in the leg, and they tend to be more on the medial aspect of the thigh, so more inwards than on the outside. But if these are damaged or severed, particularly the femoral artery, you could, you know, bleed out quite quickly in a matter of minutes. And so if that were the case, you would want to apply what's called a tourniquet, which is basically like a tight band around the area to limit the amount of blood lost. And then once he's in the A&E department, you'd want one of the vascular team or the doctors or surgeons that deal with blood vessels to have a look to see if they need to repair anything there.
You're so dark! Jaina from the DC universe!
Oh gosh, alright, we might need to hold off with the vascular team review of Deadpool's leg here, because it looks like they might need to have a look at one of the blood vessels in his neck. Now, the one I'd be concerned about here is called the subclavian artery, which is the artery that goes on to supply the upper limb. Now, some clinical signs to pick up on in a patient who may have severed the subclavian artery is that the hand may appear pale and cold and feel weak to the patient, and that's just due to a lack of blood supply. Now, this can be really serious because clearly if the tissues don't receive any blood, they can become hypoxic, ischemic, and ultimately begin to die. So it's really important, if you suspect this, to get one of the vascular team in to review, because he might need to be rushed to surgery for an urgent repair. Also, another concern that I would have, depending on the length of this blade, is whether he's had a penetrating lung injury that's caused a collapsed lung, or what we would otherwise call a pneumothorax. So what you'd want to do is have a listen to the chest with a stethoscope to see if you can hear breathing over the chest, or whether there's an area where there's absent breath sounds, because this can indicate that there is what we call a pneumothorax or a collapsed lung. Now, you'd normally want to objectify the size of the collapse, and you do this by getting a chest x-ray. Now, a pneumothorax, as I say, can be life-threatening, so it's really important that once it's identified that patients are treated promptly. Now, the treatment for a pneumothorax is inserting a chest drain into the chest to allow the lungs to reinflate and allow you to continue breathing. Oh gosh, okay, and in this final scene we see Cable deliver a pneumatic punch through to Deadpool's thoracic spine. And I can't believe I haven't recognised this before, but his arm is very reminiscent of the Winter Soldier's arm as well, isn't it? Now, with the force that we see Deadpool go flying, I would anticipate that he's got several fractures to the thoracic spine, and you know, if those are severe enough, they could compromise the nerve supply to everywhere below that injury, which could lead to paralysis. Now, what I'd want to do in Deadpool's case is put him onto a spinal board so that we can immobilise the spine and he doesn't cause himself any further damage. And then I'd want to put him through an MRI scanner to see the extent of the damage before we decide what we need to do next. Okay, well, we've covered a lot there, all the way through from spinal damage to concussion and pneumothoraces. I hope you found today's video entertaining and enjoyable. If you did, please do give us a like and consider subscribing to the channel so that you don't miss out on any future videos like this. Also, whilst you're here, why not check out another couple of videos like this on my channel, and I'll leave links to those both up here and also down below in the description. Otherwise, if you have any recommendations for any future videos, leave those down in the comments below. But otherwise, as always, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.